My name is Marcy. I've been fostering for about 4 years. My specialty is the bottle babies because I love taking care of very newborns. It's something that I just find very rewarding. There's times where it's sad. I've lost a few. A lot of people tell me, how do you give them up? And I say, every one I give up is another one I can help. Every litter's different. Every kitten's different. Some things work for some and some don't for other. Probably my best advice would be just remain calm and do the best you can, because you're giving them a chance that they might not have. Okay, so a couple options. When you find kittens, you want to make sure they get warm, because before 2 weeks they can't regulate their body, so they'll shiver and everything, so they need to be kept warm. So you get a heating pad. Like I said, you keep it on low. Make sure it's wrapped in a towel so they're not directly on the heating pad. But also make sure that they can get off the heating pad, because overheating is not good for kittens either. If you don't have a heating pad, you can always take a water bottle, put warm water in it, wrap it in a towel and stick it next to it. Or you can heat rice in a microwave and then stick the rice, after you've heated the rice, into a sock and put that next to them. Like, kitten that's cold will not eat. So you got to make sure they're warm before you try to feed them. And the first thing I like to do is stimulate them to go to the bathroom, pee, because I like to wake them up a little bit. So usually I hold them like this, and I'm not really rubbing. I'm just kind of moving my finger, up and down. I'm keeping it steady on them. I usually get like a cotton ball. I like these little cotton rounds that you can buy at the 99-cent store. Or you can even use a tissue. And all you do is you just put it on there, and you're not rubbing against them. I just gently put on there, kind of like this, just very gentle against your skin. You're not, or even just patting too, but you're not pushing and rubbing. You're just gently stimulating like that. Before they are 4 weeks old, they usually can't eliminate on their own. They need, their mothers are the ones that take care of all that and lick them, and that's how they go to the bathroom. So it's important to make sure you stimulate them at every feeding. And sometimes when they're getting a little bigger like this, sometimes if they're awake, I do it in between feedings. When they're usually starting to poop, you can keep this up a little bit higher so that it doesn't get into their genitals. And sometimes it gets messy, and sometimes it just comes straight out very clean. So if it gets messy and they do get all dirty, what I usually like to do is I run their bottom under warm water, not hot water, not cold water, but just lukewarm water, and clean them up with a washcloth under running water, as long as it's not stressing them out. But they seem to like that, and then keep them nice and warm and clean. You don't want them to ever get chilled. You can hold them like the mother cat does, like lays them on they're on their back, and stimulate them like that too. And they will usually pee right away. And what I do is I take the formula, I get a cup, I fill it with water, I put it in the microwave for about 1.5 minutes or so and get it warm. Then I take the bottle and I stick it inside there and let it get a little bit warm, like a little above room temperature. If you don't have formula, or it's in the day and you can't get to a pet store, you can go to a grocery store and get powdered goat's milk, or goat's milk you can usually find at Stater Brothers or a grocery store. So sometimes if you get a kitten and it's upset and it doesn't want to take a bottle, you can actually swaddle it like a baby, so it's not fighting it more. Hold it close to you. Put a little bit of nipple, put a little bit in its mouth, and then hopefully it'll start suckling. On some of the bottles that are like this, a lot of times I squeeze because they're harder. When they're very little, they're hard. It's hard for them to get it. Now make sure when you buy these bottles at the store they don't come with nipples. I mean, excuse me, they don't come with the nipple with the hole in it. So usually you can get a little scissor and cut like a little X on it, or you can poke it with a needle, you know, clean a needle and poke it with a needle. And then what I like to do is, I usually like to squeeze the bottle a little bit and see how much it's coming out. And if it's coming out a little bit, then you know the hole's big enough. Now if it's rushing out like that, the hole might be a little bit too big. So, because that'll go down them too quick. Sometimes, if they're crying, that's when you shove it in, usually, or put it in. Sometimes, when they're not nursing, if you just pet their head, kind of like a mama cat when she's licking them. These nipples are a little bit bigger, so you might want to just kind of put your little finger in there and stick it in their mouth and squeeze a little bit, and then usually they will start suckling on it. He's not very hungry right now, but if you put your little finger right onto the side, and then that'll open their mouth, and then you can squeeze a little bit in there, and then usually they'll start suckling from that on these nipples that are a little bit bigger. Because when they're very, very tiny, these nipples are pretty big, but they work. And you hold them like this, not like a baby, like a newborn, like a human baby, but kind of like they're nursing with a mother. And usually if you look at their little ears, they move back and forth when they're eating, when their ears are moving. The second one's ears moving here. Sometimes I have to squeeze it a little bit. These are some new nipples I found, miracle nipples that work great, but I order them off of Amazon. If they won't take a nipple, you can get a little syringe. Sometimes you can even just get them at the pharmacy, they'll give them to you. And you put it there and put a little in, just a little in their mouth. Let's see, he's used to doing a bottle, so you could do a nipple on a syringe or a syringe. The syringe is new, it'll go down. Sometimes you don't even have to push on it. They can suckle hard enough. If they're not suckling, you can do it, but you don't want to push it too much where you're shoving it down their throat. I like the syringe to use when they're real little because you can measure how many cc's they are eating. And they should have 8 cc's per how much ounces they each weigh, broken up into how many feedings you do. But after they're done eating, I usually hold them. They need to burp. And I hold them firm in my tummy, on my hand, their tummy on my hand. And I just take 2 fingers and I tap them. A lot of times you'll hear the burp, sometimes you won't. Sometimes you do it for a few minutes and you set them down and then they burp. But they usually like it. It seems like they kind of go in a little trance and relax. If bubbles come out of their nose, they definitely have too much, or it's being fed too quick. Like right now, he just doesn't seem like, see how he kind of pushes with his lips and his tongue? He's like, I'm done. Okay. So you don't want to overfeed them. It's better to underfeed them and feed them, you know, maybe an hour or 2 later and try again than overfeeding them and trying to get them to eat because you're worried about them eating. But usually when they're upset like that, I don't know why it is, but they love to be burped. If you're holding them and you're comfortable. If you're nervous, then they get nervous. So just remember that. Just hold them and just do the best you can.